let's jump right into it. Question 1, we are asking for a stratified sample of 600 students. So the first thing we should keep in mind is the fact that this is a stratified sample and we're asking for a sample of 600 students. Okay, very important to keep these things in mind. So we have a table here with the information about our population, and they have split our population up into strata. And remember, strata is just each group. Okay, this is one, this is the second one, this is the third one. Those are our strata. So the first thing we do before we even read the question, okay, I recommend this for any stratified sample question, we want to find the population, the total population. So how do we do that? We're going to take all of the little individual populations of our strata, we're going to add them all up. So we're going to take 750, we're going to add that to 1,000, we're going to add that to 950, we're going to add that to 860, and to 1,350. And that's going to give me 4,910. Okay? So we have 4,910 students at the school overall. So now we look at the question. We want the number of Sec 3 students in our sample. So we don't care about these ones. Let's just look here at our Sec 3 students. All right? And we know that there's 950 Sec 3 students in our original population in the Sec 3 category. All right? So let's keep in mind, let's remind ourselves, of what the formula we're going to be using for any stratified sample question. If you don't have it on your memory already, I highly recommend you write that down. So it's going to look something like this. On the top left, we have the number in the strata, so how many people are in our strata of interest. Underneath it, it's going to be N, which is our total population size. Okay, maybe I'll write here, students. Okay. On the right side, we have X. That's how many students of a certain strata we are going to sample. So how many Sec 3 students we're going to ask, basically, which is what we're looking for. That's our unknown. And underneath that, we're going to put our sample size. Okay? So everything on the left side of the equation has to deal with our original population, right? This is the number in our strata originally, 950. This is our original population size. On the right side, it's anything to do with our sample, i.e., in other words, this is how many Sec 3 students we want in our sample, and this is just our total sample size, okay? So that's another trick to remember. Left is population, right is sample. So, number in strata. Where are we going to find that information? It's not in this, it is in this table. It's not in the question, right? It's going to be here. It's 950. So we're going to put that right there. Underneath it, we want our total population size. That's N. We calculated N right at the beginning. So 4,910. Okay? On the right side, X, that's what we're looking for. We're going to keep that as our variable X. Underneath it is our sample size. It's not going to be in the table. It's going to be up here now. That's going to be in the question. It's always in the question itself, okay? 600 students. That's going to go right here, all right? So remember, number in the strata, that's going to be in the table. N, that's what we're going to calculate right away. And our sample size is in the question, all right? Now, we have two fractions and an equation between the two of them. What can we do? Cross multiply, all right? So 950 times 600 is going to give me 570,000. On the right hand side, we have 4,910x, right? And so now we're just going to take 570,000, divide that by 4,910, right? Because we want to isolate that x. So we're going to divide both sides by 4,910. This is just going to be 1. So on the right hand side, we're just left with 1 times x, or x. On the left hand side, we're going to get 116.09. But we can't take a decimal of a student, so we're going to round this down to 116 students. And that's going to be our final answer. So the answer for question 1 is going to be 116. Now, we look at question 2. We are given 4 different types of sampling, and we want to know which one I used in this example, where I'm collecting data from students whose names I pull from a hat. So let's go through these options together. Let's see what we can find. Stratified sampling. What is stratified sampling? That is exactly what we did in question 1. Okay, it is when the proportions in our population are properly represented in our sample. For example, if 60% of our original population happened to be boys, then 60% of my sample should be boys. If 20% of my original population were Sec 1 students, 20% of my sample should be Sec 1 students. In this case, I'm pulling names from a hat. I might pull names that are all girl names, right? Or I might pull names that all belong to Sec 4 students. So in this case, I'm definitely not doing stratified sampling. So let's look at cluster sampling. What is cluster sampling? That's just when the population is divided into groups, and instead of going around and asking, all the students from every grade, I'm just going to ask individual clusters, these little samples, okay? Little groups, I mean. So if I'm asking, if I'm doing a survey throughout the whole school, I might just ask 3 classrooms, because these classes have already been kind of grouped for me, so it's kind of easy to do, all right? So those are cluster sampling. That's cluster sampling. We're just gonna ask clusters of students or people. In this case, I'm not doing that at all, so it's not cluster sampling. Systematic sampling, what is that? That's when we're gonna sample students that are kind of equally spaced apart from each other. So let's say I pull out a list and I ask every 5th student on that list, okay? In this case, I am pulling names randomly from a hat. So that's not what I'm doing. There's no guarantee that the students are going to be evenly spaced apart. It is not systematic sampling. It is simple random sampling. I am doing something simple, right? A simple action like pulling names from a hat, or for example, in another situation would be rolling a dice, or throwing a dart at a board of students' faces, and I'm gonna be like, haha, this person or that person, okay? But anyway, it's a simple action that leads to a random outcome, okay? So in this case, my simple action is pulling names from a hat. The random outcome is just the random student whose name I'm picking. So it is a simple random sampling. That is the answer for question 2. Now, question 3, you got a list of some numbers, and we're asking for the mean, the median, and the mode. All right, so first things first, make sure it's in order. In this case, it is from least to greatest. We're good to go. We can start immediately by labeling the positions of the numbers. Let me use a nicer color. Let's go for green. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We've got 8 numbers, okay? So let's start with the easiest thing to do, which is look for the mode, right? No calculations, no formulas needed. Let's look at this. We've got one of every number except for these 2 28s. So immediately we can just kind of get rid of this guy. We don't care about him, okay? The next thing we should look at is, this answer C looks very, very different from the others, right? It's 171. That corresponds to the first kind of central tendency that we're looking for, which is the mean. What is the mean? It's the average, right? That's kind of be like, it's going to give you kind of the middle of our group. And looking at these numbers, the highest number we have is 33, right? And a lot of our numbers are like really, honestly, they're all lower than 30. So it does not make sense for our number to be 171. Our average should not be that high. It's impossible for it to be that high. So our answer cannot be C as well. We're left with these 2 options. So now we have to consider our median, because that's the only difference between these 2 numbers, these 2 options, all right? So what do we do when we have to find the median? The first thing we should do is consider what n is. In this case, n is 8. We've got 8 numbers. This is an even number. So when we have an even amount of values, we should do n over 2 and n over 2 plus 1. Okay, it's really important to remember that n over 2 and n over 2 plus 1, they don't give me my median, they give me the position of the middle values. Okay, and once we have those positions, we can find the middle values, and we'll take the number directly between those two numbers. All right, so let's go for this one. We've got 8 over 2, which will give me 4. Here we have 8 over 2 plus 1, which will give me 5. But 4 and 5 are not my middle numbers. Okay, these are our positions. 4th position, 5th position. Okay, and so we look back in our list now. What is my 4th position? It is 23. My 5th position is 28. And now I can find the number directly between them by taking 23 and 28, adding them together and dividing by 2. And that's going to give me 25.5. So it is not B. Our answer for question 3 is A. All right. So let's keep going. We want to find the mean, the median, and the mode for these two lists of numbers. So the first thing we're going to do is look at A, and let's see if these numbers are in order. In this case, it's not. We should probably switch these two, right? 20 and 22. So this one's going to go here. Okay, the rest of them are in order. Let's go with labeling the numbers now, the positions. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. And we can even just get started right away here. We'll put n equals 10. We've got 10 numbers, and that's an even number. All right. So let's go for our mean first. We're going to take all these numbers. We're going to add them together. We're going to take 13 plus 14 plus 20. We're going to add all these together. And we're going to divide by the amount of numbers we're adding together. So our n, in this case, it's 10. And that's going to be 470 over 10, right? And that's just going to lead me to 47. That is my median. Next, we're going to look at the mode because it's nice and simple. No formulas, no calculations needed. We look at the list. We've got one of every number, but we've got two 66s. So our mode is 66. It's the one that appeared the most often, okay? The most frequent number. So 66, we're going to write it occurred 2 times. Last but not least, we're going to look at our median, okay? We know that n is 10. It is even. So we're going to have to do the same thing as we did in question 3. n over 2, n over 2 plus 1. So 10 divided by 2 is 5. 10 over 2 plus 1 is going to be 5 plus 1. That's 6. These are not my middle numbers. These are my positions for the middle numbers. Okay? 5th and 6th position. So my 5th position is 52. My 6th position is 66. We can't have 2 numbers for my median. I want to find 1 number. So I'm going to take 52. I'm going to add that to 66. Divide that by 2. That's going to give me the number directly between 52 and 66. That's going to be 59. And that is my median for 4A. Now, for 4B, we've got another list. This list seems to be in order, right? From least to greatest. So we're going to start right away with labeling these positions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So my n is 13. It is odd. All right. So to find my mean, same deal as before. We're going to take all the numbers. We're going to add them all up together. There's 13 numbers. It's going to take me way too long to write. But I highly recommend you do that on your test or quiz. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to say that it's going to be 438 when we add them all up. Okay. Underneath it, we have 13 numbers, so we're going to divide that by 13. That's give me 33.69. Whenever we're dealing with means, whether it's a weighted mean or just the regular mean, we want to keep 2 numbers after my decimal point. Okay, 2 numbers. Okay, don't round this to 34. A lot of people did this. We're going to keep two numbers, all right? So 33.69, that's my mean. My mode, we're going to look through this list together. We've got two 21s, but we've got three 50s. So, really important, don't write 21 and say that occurred twice and then write 50 occurred 3 times. I just want one number. I just want the one that appeared the most frequently. Okay? So, it's going to be 50. And we're going to write occurred. That's not how you spell occurred. I forgot the U. Occurred 3 times. All right? 50 is my mode. Now, we look at the median, right? Whenever looking for median, we like odd amounts of numbers, because in this case, we don't have to do the whole n over 2 and then n over 2 plus 1. We don't have to do n over 2 plus 1. We just need the n over 2 thing, okay? In this case, my n is 13. It is odd, so this gives me 13 over 2, which is 6.5. 6.5, we can't have the 6.5th position, right? So we're going to round this up to the 7th position, okay? Really important. Once again, 7 is not my median. 7 is not the median. It is the position of the median. So I'm going to go back to my list. Luckily, I labeled all these ahead of time, right? So 7 is going to be here. My 7th position is 37. My median is 37. Okay? Now, let's look at this question. So, I am collecting data at Laurel Hills Junior Campus about how much badminton the students play each year. Given the following information, a stratified sample of 120 is requested. Okay, this is my sample size. It's 120. It's always in the question. All right. Now we have this table. We have the individual population, individual strata sizes, right? These are my strata. It's a little different from question 1, where we had it all kind of like vertical like this. In this case, we've got them. We've got 4, but 2 of them are side by side. Okay, but same deal in this case. We just have 4 groups. And to find our total population, we're going to take these 4 numbers. We're going to add them up together, okay? We want the total number. I don't want just the males or just the females. I want all of them, the whole population size. So add up all those 4 numbers, we get 1,135 students on the junior campus. Now, let's read the question. We want to complete the table below with the number of students that I should sample from each group. Perfect. So let's start one at a time. I'll be right back. Let me just pull out my calculator. Okay, so let's start with the male Sec 1 students. Okay, we're going to set up the equation the same way we did as question 1. Let's write that out. So we've got the number in strata. Underneath it, it's going to be my population size. On the right side, we've got my x, which we don't know what that is. That's how many students from that strata I want to sample. And underneath is going to be my sample size, okay? So remember, on the left side, it's always going to be what's, the things that deal with the population, okay? The number in my strata in the original population, in that table here. N is going to be my original population size. That's how many students that are in my total population, okay? The right side is always going to deal with my sample. How many male Sec 1 students are going to be my sample, or Sec 2 female students, so on and so forth, okay? And underneath it, it's my sample size, okay? The right side is sample, the left side is population, okay? So let me move this down, actually. Male 1. Okay, so let's fill out the formula. On the top left is the number in the strata. In this case, it's 260, all right? So let me color code this actually. So in green, we've got 260. My n, what is my n? It is 1135. Here we've got x, we still know what that is, and my sample size, as was given in the question, is 120. So we've got 2 fractions separated by an equation. Let's cross multiply. 260 times 120 is going to be 31,200, and that's going to be equal to 1,135x. We want to isolate that x, so we want to divide both sides by 1,135, right? Because x is currently being multiplied by 1,135. We're going to do the inverse of multiplication, which is division. So we're going to divide both sides by 1,135. On the right side, I'm left with x. On the left side, I have 3,200 over 1,135. So that's just going to be 27.49. But we can't sample 0.49 of a student. Okay, so we're going to round this down to 27 students. Why are we rounding down? Because the number behind the decimal is a 4, and 4 is less than 5. So we're going to round down. If it's 5 or above, then we round up to the next number. If it's below 5, we just go back down to 27. So 27 students. Next, let's do, oh, what happened there? Okay, that was interesting. Let's do Sec 1 female students. So I'm going to put this right here, F1. So same deal as before. Number in the strata is 275. We get that from our table. Underneath it is our N, the one that we calculated by adding 260. Let me write that actually for you all. 260 plus 275 plus 290 plus 310 is 1135. Okay, so we've got 1135 as my total population size. Up here I've got X, and underneath it I have my sample size, which I got, yes, from the question. So we've got 120. Let's cross multiply as we did before. So 275 times 120 is going to be 33,000. On the right side I have 1135x. Same deal as before. I have 1135 times x. I want to get rid of that 1135 that's being multiplied, so I'm going to divide. Okay, I'm going to do the inverse. So on the right side, I'm left with x, because 1135 divided by 1135 is just 1, and 1 times x is just x. 33000 divided by 1135 is going to give me, let me write this first. Okay, x is going to give me 29.07. But I cannot sample 0.07 of a student. So I'm going to round this down to 29 students. So how many female students are going to be in my, Sec 1 female students in my sample? It's going to be 29. Okay? Next, what color should I use? Let's use purple. I like purple. Okay. Let's look at the male Sec 2 students. M2. So same deal as before. We've got 290 in my strata, okay? Over our N, our total population size is going to be 1135. Top right is X. We still don't know how many we should sample in the male Sec 2 category, strata, group, whatever you want to call it. And underneath it is going to be our sample size. It's 120. So we cross multiply as always. 290 times 120 is going to be 34,800. And here we have 1135x. We want to get rid of that 1135. We're going to divide by 1135. So on the left side, that leaves me with, let me write this first. That's going to leave me with 30.66 as my x, okay? But we can't take 0.66 of a student. We can't sample 0.66 of a student. We're going to round this up to 31 students, okay? So here we're going to have 31. And last but not least, let me use, I ran out of colors. Let's go for orange, okay? I like orange. So female Sec 2 students. How many do we have in our original strata? We have 310. So right here, we're going to put 310. Underneath it is our total population size. It's 1135. On top we have x here, and underneath that is going to be my sample size. It's 120. Now, before I continue, I just wanted to bring your attention to the fact that if you look at the population size here, 1135, you'll notice in every equation on the left side, in the denominator, which is the thing on the bottom of the fraction, it's always the same, right? No matter what strata I'm calculating for, the population size does not change. Just because I'm trying to find how many female students I'm going to sample, the population won't change. I won't be adding or removing students from my population, right? This does not change. And my sample size, which is how many students I want in my sample, okay? This does not change either. It's still 120 for all of them, okay? This does not change. These denominators will not change whichever strata we're dealing with, all right? The only thing that's changing is here on the top left, this number, which is the number of students or people in your original strata, all right? So just make sure whenever you're doing this, if suddenly your denominator is a different number, go back, figure out what happened, but it should not be changing, okay? So let's continue with the female sec2s. So same deal as before, we cross multiply. 120 times 310 gives me 37,200 equals 1135x. Divide both sides by 1135. That's going to give me 32.78. And I'm going to say it one more time. We cannot take a decimal of a student. Okay, we're not going to sample 0.78 of a student. So we're going to round this up to 33 students. All right, and that's my final answer here, 33. So we finish this table. Now, we can just easily close our test, our quiz, and submit this. But if you really wanted to double check your work with a stratified sample question, how can we do that? Well, we know our sample size is 120. We have here the stratas, right? In our sample, these are the 4 categories in our sample. So ideally, if we add these up, they should come back to 120, right? That's my total sample size. So in my sample, I have 27 male Sec1 students, 29 female Sec1 students, 31 male Sec2 students, and 33 female Sec2 students. If I add them all up, they should give me 120. It might give you 119. It might give you 121 because, you know, there was some rounding. That's fine, okay? If you get somewhere close to 120, it's all good, okay? You probably didn't make a mistake. And you might get 120 exactly, even better. But if you got like 570, something's gone wrong. Something's gone wrong and you should go back and check your work, okay? But let's try in this case. We got 27. We add that to 29 plus 31 plus 33. Here, maybe you can label your work. We're going to say double check. Okay, I'm just double checking my answer. 27 plus 29 plus 31 plus 33. Perfect. That comes out exactly to 120 students. So you can put a little check mark for yourself, put a little smiley face, pat yourself on the back. You did a good job. All right. And that's about it for the quiz. If there were any questions after this video, and you are unsure about something that's on your quiz, or you wanted to ask about, a slight variation of these questions, what if this is different, what if that's different, feel free to come ask me or Mr. Pagano, okay? We're always here to help. If this video has caused more confusion, I apologize. Please come ask me and I will clarify anything for you, all right? But apart from that, happy studying, and good luck.